The next thing I'm going to just quickly highlight, The Sympathizer, another limited series on HBO, which was co-created by Park Chan-wook, who's a phenomenal filmmaker, directed Old Boy, Decision to Leave, we talked about on the podcast.
Legend.
The Handmaiden, another incredible film.
Legend.
He's really a singular talent, and he adapts this source material, which comes from a 2015 novel from Viet Thanh Nguyen, hope I pronounced that correctly, also called The Sympathizer. But it's basically a story that begins about a month before the fall of Saigon in 1975, and it's centered around the Vietnam War. And the show essentially follows the misadventures of this double agent who's loyal to the Viet Cong, and he's only referred to as the captain, and he's played by Hoa Xuandi. And he also struggles to keep the North Vietnamese, the South Vietnamese, and the CIA happy while working as an operative in the U.S. So he's operating as a double agent. So already a really, really complicated set of circumstances that he finds himself in. But it's a show that's essentially an espionage thriller, but it's also like this cross-cultural satire about his struggles as an individual, because he's half Vietnamese, but he's also half French. So he's like half white, half Vietnamese. And he's a communist and he's a spy, and it's taking place during the final days of Vietnam. And he's also been exiled from the U.S. Lots of really, really big ideas and themes here, but this is a full meal. This show is just so good across the board. What I find tragic about it is the fact that it's flying a bit under the radar at the moment. It's reminding me of Steven Soderbergh's limited series that came out last year on Max called Full Circle, a really tremendous show, but that also didn't get a ton of attention. And I find that The Sympathizer is sort of taking the place of that show now. In the summertime, they were released around the same amount of time. But at the end of the day, the quality of the show just stands head and shoulders, I think, above a lot of what we see from other prestige TV series, because it's a refreshing story. And it's definitely different compared to what we see from the rest of the industry, some of the things that we've been talking about. And thankfully, a studio like A24 took this on to help get the story told, because I think it's certainly worthwhile. And Park Chan-wook, again, as a director, is just phenomenal. And he directs the first 3 episodes of these series, and he masterfully establishes what the tone and the style of the show is supposed to be. He just has such a command of the material and of this world that, I think he directs these episodes with just extraordinary visual and narrative confidence. You can just feel the confidence of him as a filmmaker. He just knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows exactly what he wants. All the images, all the colors, the cinematography, it really leaps off the screen. It feels really textured and layered and lived in. It doesn't look like any other show on TV. He incorporates so many different styles. It's just gorgeous, the stuff that he creates in those first 3 episodes in particular. I also want to talk about Robert Downey Jr., who was one of the more flashier elements of the promotional campaign for the show. And he's also an executive producer. He steps into multiple characters in this show, which has been sort of made fun of now because he's been cast as Dr. Doom in the MCU. And we've seen a lot of memes come out about, Robert Downey Jr. going to star as Black Panther, as Black Widow, as Incredible Hulk. It's funny because he's literally doing that in this show. He plays essentially all of the white male roles who take the captain, the main character, under his wing, and these people that the captain comes into contact with. He has so many different wigs, so many different facial prosthetics. He changes his diction and the way that he talks, body language. All of this stuff is just so visual. And he does it with such supreme confidence because Robert Downey Jr. is just so good and he's having a ton of fun. And he's just living out every cartoonish persona that they give him. And these multiple personalities, I think, for any actor would kind of be a dream, because you can just kind of disappear into them and just do all sorts of weird, erratic sort of decision making based on them. But there's a layer underneath of all of these characters, a layer of racism, just for lack of a better term, that exists underneath all these characters, because they are all white men, and there is just this underlying racism and tension that exists. And ultimately, I think these different personalities sort of exist as a metaphor to the fact that racism can look like a ton of different things. It can look like and come in all shapes and sizes, but the truth, it's the same at every root level. It's always just going to be the same underneath. And that's exactly the type of characters that he's inhabiting. There's even an episode here where he's playing a filmmaker. It very much feels like a a Francis Ford Coppola reference because
Mm.
they're doing an episode that is clearly like a satire and a parody of Apocalypse Now. Like that's clearly what they're going
Mm.
for here in that movie. If you've seen it, based on the Vietnam War, of course, and it's about that film's production and just some of the goofier things that happen across Hollywood history with Asian representation in film and TV. They speak on that as well, but at the end of the day, the real standout is the lead, Joao Zwande, who plays the captain. I want him to be a bona fide movie star from here on out. He's incredible. I think most people have probably seen him in Cowboy Bebop. He was in that show.
Mm-hmm.
But what he does here, it's just incredible because he's encompassing so many different emotions. He has to carry a lot of anxiety and dread, but also guilt, underlying rage. But he also has like an air of confidence to him. And there's just so many things that he's grappling with. And he also has to wrestle with the idea that he's rejected essentially by both identities and by both worlds. He's rejected by the Eastern and Western cultures because he has all of these different racial, ethnic identities that are true to him. You know, him being half French and also half Vietnamese, it's a very complicated thing. And he's really, really incredible at conveying and anchoring, I think, these competing tones in this performance. It's phenomenal. The only thing I'll say about The Sympathizer, I think what sort of holds it back from me for being like a near perfect series is the fact that the last few episodes, it's a 7-episode limited series, but the last few episodes are not directed by Park Chan-wook. And I think that they suffer because of that. I just would have rathered he directed everything because I think they would have stuck the landing a lot more. The finale it's a bit bizarre and it doesn't really give you too many answers, which is okay, but it's a bit bizarre, I think, compared to the rest of the series, and you can feel sort of the uneven nature in those back half amount of episodes compared to the first 3, which kind of feel just like one long seamless movie. It doesn't even really feel episodic. You can tell like this is just like a singular vision, and then the other ones kind of suffer because they have a couple of different directors step in. But ultimately, this show reaches greatness quite often. It's never consistent enough to be like a near perfect show, but it does have some great performances, some absolutely wonderful cinematography, and it's talking about a ton of stuff, a lot of ideas, a lot of subjects, you know, that are very, very important and relevant even still to this day. So I found it to be a really, really enjoyable watch overall.
Man, I cannot wait to watch the show. I've like low key just been like waiting on it. Like I set it aside because I know I'm gonna watch like all 7 episodes like back to back. Well, whenever I do it, man. Park Chan Wook, legend. Yeah, I really can't wait to check it out. I know, I know. I just know it's good. I have a good feeling about it, and everything you just said reinforced that for sure.